teenagers and children who are constantly shut down and shut and brushed, you constantly speak negatively to them, they can also go into that muting thing where you're wondering, mtoto hata nikumwongelesha nijibu, mtoto siku hizi haongei, but anafanya all the wrong things, trying to get the attention. There's this theory I would like to talk about today, and we're going to call it the muted group theory. That's the name of the theory. It's a communication theory, and it is meant to explain how, for a long time, if there's a minority group and a stronger group, the minority group is usually muted. And muting is simply, it means that at some point, they stop expressing themselves. So the muted group theory was basically for women, and it's back in the day, and it was found that the reason why women were even muting in the first place was because if you speak and you're not heard doesn't necessarily mean that they don't hear, but you can hear and negate or demotivate or use the information against the person speaking. So if that happens, that means this person is eventually going to stop talking. If I express myself today, tomorrow, the next day, speaking, saying the same thing, and it's not heard, or whatever I'm saying is used against me continuously for a given period of time, I eventually stop speaking. That's the muted group theory, and that's just the basic idea behind it. If you're interested, it's just good to just go Google, learn about it, read about it, and get to understand more about it and see how it can be of help to your life. And the reason why I'm saying that I want to decode this is because I found it very interesting that this happens a lot. I've seen it happening, it has happened to me, and I never thought that it's a thing that is serious enough. And actually the scholars who've studied it and have talked about it in amazing books. Yeah, so the thing with muting is that the books don't really tell you the process of muting, and that's one of the weaknesses of the theory, that we won't tell you that the process is, first of all, they'll close their eyes or they listen for 10 times before they start muting. So it's different for everybody. But the dangers of muting are there, and they probably won't find them in any book, but just for the sake of information and for the sake of learning, I have listed a few ways to catch yourself in the act when you're muting. Like, how do you know, I think I'm starting to mute and I need to do something about it, because it's dangerous. The reason why you need to do something about it is muting is very dangerous. Number one, eventually you're going to explode. Eventually. The reasons why muting is dangerous is eventually you're going to explode, and probably by the time that's happening, you're going to explode to the wrong people. You're going to explode by exploding, I simply mean you're going to let it out. You're going to eventually, especially if it's an idea you're expressing, or you're trying to express yourself, or trying to share, and you're constantly being shut. At some point, you'll force people to listen, and it might not be quite the good thing or the image that you want to create out there. So, and some of the ways in which people end up expressing themselves, other than women, first of all, let me mention that it's not this women issue. You see, like teenagers and children who are constantly shut down and shut and brushed, you constantly speak negatively to them, they can also go into that muting thing where you're wondering, mtoto hata nikumwongelesha nijibu, mtoto siku hizi haongei, but anafanya all the wrong things, trying to get the attention that they need. That I'm saying, eventually they will express themselves. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't create an environment for others to express themselves because it makes you feel a certain way, then you need to check yourself. You also need to check yourself, because we want to create an environment where everybody is allowed to say something respectfully. This also happens at workplaces, even to men, where you constantly have a boss who never listens, and even the kind of person who does not listen but doesn't use it against you, or doesn't belittle you, or doesn't shut you down, or doesn't work on you, you go home and just like, wait, oh my God, it's exhausting. And the thing is that emotional damages are eventually, they even express physically. They even seem physically, other than just them being emotional. So some of the negative ways in which people eventually end up expressing themselves, if you go through the muting process and they mute, is that they end up being rebellious. Some cause self-harm. You've had people who are, like using sharp objects to hurt themselves and bleed. I'm just feeling good when I'm bleeding, let it out, and you don't understand why. You don't understand why someone would take a knife and cut themselves. Some of it is there's nobody who's listening. Nobody's listening. And sometimes listening is not just listening. You might listen and use it against me. You might listen and do nothing about it. You might listen and make sure everybody else does not listen. I don't know. If you're that kind of person, please stop. But I'll talk about it another day. But for today, it's just on the people who are muting. Or they end up becoming bullies. Sometimes bullies in schools are expressing themselves in ways we don't understand. Some of them end up being rebellious and things like that. But today, let me share with you how to catch yourself on the act, how to know that, hey, I think I'm going to end up badly, or I need to do something about myself. The first thing is that you tend to avoid conversations, especially in a specific place. For example, if you're married and you constantly avoid having financial conversations with your partner, or certain conversations, or any conversation, you might need to think twice about the person you're with and about the kind of relationships you're having. Either you see a person who can help you through it, or you find a way out. But you should not avoid conversation. You should be in a place where you can both talk freely. And every time you find yourself avoiding certain conversation, and very well, when it comes to money, I'm not going to talk about it. When it comes to women, we don't need to talk about it. When it comes to his phone, I don't need to talk about, the things that you just don't feel like you need to have a conversation about. But I believe that everything should be talked about. And then the second thing is that you always stop halfway. You're the kind of person who will be having a conversation with people and you're like, I'm a wachato. Or you start saying something like, ngoja kidogo. Especially if you do it intentionally. There are those that happen that are not intentional. Like, you stop yourself midway. You're like, oh, maybe that one I shouldn't say. Think twice about that. The other thing is that you're willing to take blame, even when you know you're right. You're willing to take blame and you know you're right. You're not okay. How? Like, like at work, Sonia is the one who did this and this. Oh, yeah, fine. I'm sorry I did it. You didn't do it and you know it, but you're willing to take the blame. You need to think twice about where you are. Then the other thing is you do not want to talk about it. You do not want to discuss it even with other people that are not in that space. You're not okay talking about that issue or any issue that you know is affecting you. You know it's a problem, but you're not really willing to talk about it. So all these things are about being self-conscious, to ask yourself, is what I'm doing okay? Or is something not right? And lastly is you want to distract yourself with other things. For example, if people are going for like meditation, you prefer, let's drink, let's have fun, or let's go out. As much as all that could also be a way of channeling and expressing yourself. If it works for you, well, fine. If it's working for you, fine. But you constantly avoid areas of self-revelation and you prefer distraction. Just check yourself on that. And lastly is how do you get yourself out of that? Number one is find people around you who can support you and help you be the best version of yourself. Be around people that you're okay making mistakes with. Of course, not all the time. For example, if you're married and your toxic person is your husband, then you need a friend or two best friends who are just out of this world, who can pull you out and just say, you know what, today, lunchtime, we're going to have some time with you. And you're okay expressing yourself around them. You're okay talking about their mistakes, and they're also okay talking when you talk about your mistakes, and they don't judge you about it. Those people exist, and you need to intentionally carve a space or carve a group of people who you can believe and trust. It doesn't have to be family, but people. It could be a mother. Mothers come in handy there. That they're just a space where I can be myself. I can cry, I can talk, but I know that it's not going to be used against me. Then again, catch yourself in the act. I've said that. Realize that I don't think this is normal for me to be going down like this. And then express yourself in other ways. Find other ways of expressing yourself so that when you go back into the toxic environment, I know you've already built a defense mechanism of not talking, but knowing that that is wrong means that you need to start taking steps either to get out of the environment or to make the environment better. So as you come back and you're working on your strategy of making that place better, then it means that at least you're fresh enough to handle it. If you have kids, and kids sometimes can really get in your nerves, then you need to get out of that space and get to a place where they're not there and just have yourself self-love, do something else. And then when you come up back, you're able to tackle it, you're able to handle it. And then appreciate yourself more. Don't look down upon yourself like hakuna mtu ananisikiza, maybe I'm not that important. That is wrong. But for today, it was just a matter of expressing how we mute naturally, knowingly or unknowingly, but it's not a good thing. Don't let yourself get to the point where you're muting for whatever reason, be it family, friends, relatives, whoever it is. I tell my daughter, you know what, if they can't listen, shout until somebody else listens. And then don't let it bring you down, because we end up doing things that are not right, like suicides. Recently, just as I conclude, there was this video that was going around, especially in Kenya, about this lady who took poison and the husband was watching her die, like throughout the process of mixing the poison and drinking it, and the whole process. He was there, he watched it, and he recorded it, and it was out there. But what struck me was just in the beginning of the video, that lady was saying, I'm done with you, I'm done with this relationship. And I was just like, this lady has been talking for a long time. She has been talking for a very long time and nobody listened. And it's sad because we lost her and we lose people. And the people that suffer are the people around you, and your children. They'll be, their lives will never be them again without you. So you need to get help, get a group of friends who can help you, speak to a professional one more time. And this channel has continued to grow. It's just a space for people to come to get motivation, to get to know that whatever you're going through, you're probably not the only one. And we are in a country and in a situation in the world where we're facing a crisis financially and in so many other ways, and people are dealing with a lot, and we're way down. Remember that you can be a friend's keeper. If you can also be a safe space for somebody else to come and express themselves, perfect. But we need to create a better world for each and every one of us. Thank you for listening to the end. And one more time, kindly subscribe and share. And again, subscribe. It's completely free and I need it. I need it to grow. So yeah, thank you so much.